morning again. I'm Bobby Lumpkin, Director of the Correctional Institutions Division for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Honored certainly to guide you through today's events with the dedication of the Memorial Unit and our Fallen Officer Ceremony. Unfortunately, we did have plans to stream this today, and unfortunately the feed did go down just a short bit ago. However, it is still being taped and will live on YouTube soon, so that some of your family members who could not be here and want to rewatch it will be available. To begin our ceremony, I'd like to introduce the Chief of Staff of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Mr. Jason Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Lumpkin, and good morning and welcome to the Memorial Unit. It is a solemn honor to be here on this occasion to remember and to celebrate the lives of public servants here in Texas, but also throughout the nation. At the same time, we will have the distinct privilege of dedicating this facility to their memory. Before we get started, I wanted to first thank Warden Bridget Hayes. Warden, the unit looks beautiful. I know it was a challenge this morning with all the inclement weather, but your staff has done a great job this far. So thank you very much, and thank you to the staff here at the Memorial Unit. I also want to take a moment just to say special thanks to the staff of Representative Ed Thompson. Randy Groff is here, as well as Stephanie Taylor from Senator Mays Middleton's office. The legislative session is going on right now, and I know they're very busy, but thank you for taking time to be here today. I did just want to start with a little bit of history about the Memorial Unit. The land that we're standing on has a long history. We can trace it back to 1824. And sugarcane. Then in the late 1840s, Nathaniel Wilkinson of New Orleans bought the land with all of its holdings, and it retained the Darrington name. In the following years, more owners came and went, but the Darrington name held, even when the land was sold to the state of Texas. Fast forward to 1917, and this is when this prison was established. Today it houses nearly 2,000 men. The prison offers numerous career and educational opportunities as well as faith-based programs, and is home to our seminary program, where men earn a bachelor's of science and biblical studies and then go out to other prisons and work as field ministers throughout the state. All that to say, there's a lot of good things happening behind the fences right here at the Memorial Unit. And these good things would not be possible without the men and women of TDCJ. So thank you to each and every one of you for all that you do to make this agency great. And then thank you to those who answered the call but are no longer with us. I will now ask Deputy Executive Director Oscar Mendoza to come forward and to lead us in the pledges.
Please stand if you are able. Join us in our nation's pledge, our state pledge, and remain standing for our national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Would also like to please remain standing, and we'll have the national anthem. Also, though, we'd like to recognize the office of Representative Ron Reynolds. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for the support. This time, I invite Correctional Officer 4, Paul Green, with the Memorial Unit to sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts
serves as the Secretary of the Texas Board of Criminal Justice. He has served on the board since August of 2014 and oversees the Trinity Fellowship Church Prison and Jail Ministries throughout the Texas Panhandle. I would like to invite Pastor Miles to lead us in the invocation.
Good morning. If you would, join me in prayer. Father God, your Son Jesus came to earth to show us what true love looks like. Jesus taught us that love was about sacrifice, virtue, and service. That love means to lay down your life for one another. For these TDCJ fallen officers all over the state of Texas, we thank you for their selfless example of courage and valor. Lord, we ask that you bless and keep the families and friends of these fallen officers. Lord, wipe away every tear from their eyes, help them to heal and to move forward in this life in a way that honors their loved one's memory. In the strong name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Miles. Bridget Hayes became the senior warden of the Memorial Unit on July 1, 2021. Since then, she has led her staff with tenacity and a purpose. It's my privilege to invite Warden Hayes to light the memorial candle.
Thank you, Mr. Lunkin. Good morning. We light a candle to honor our grief and give thanks to those we have lost. The act is just one way to celebrate and pay tribute to a life past. It promotes reflection, signifies that their memory lives on and burns bright, while guiding us forward toward healing and peace. I am honored to share this moment with you and take great pride in lighting this year's memorial candle in remembrance of our fallen correctional family.
Our keynote speaker for this year's memorial service is Executive Director Brian Collier. Mr. Collier joined our agency in 1985 and has served as our Executive Director since August 2016. He has done a remarkable job of guiding the agency, always keeping his compassion and commitment to the employees at the forefront. We are indebted to him for his transformational leadership. Please welcome Mr. Brian Collier.
Good morning. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be here today, and I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Thanks to all those who may be watching online as well. We know the weather prohibited some from making it, but we hope that the service loses nothing in that process, and we wish you the best this morning. Thank you to the families of the fallen who joined us here today. Please note that as you mourn your loss and your loved ones, we mourn with you. Today, we will dedicate this unit in their memory. This site will serve as a new way to honor them as we move forward. There's been a significant amount of work that's gone into the preparation for today's event. These preparations began well over a year ago. Thank you to all the staff who have worked to make today's ceremony and this unit dedication possible. I know each of you did so out of the respect you hold for those that we pay honor to today. Thank you. I also want to say a special thank you to Chairman Patrick O'Daniel. You may not know it, but this is his vision today. He is the one that conceived the memorial unit concept and helped us recognize this unit today in officers' honor for those that have lost their lives on the line of duty. So, Chairman O'Daniel, thank you. Today formally show our profound respect for the service and sacrifice of the nation's fallen correctional officers. On the other 364 days of the year, we quietly remember their sacrifices and remain forever indebted to them and their survivors. In the New Testament, in the book of John, chapter 15, verse 13, says, "There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends." And I can't think of a more appropriate passage for today's service. Corrections is a difficult profession. It takes a very special person to choose this type of work. We all know it's not for everyone. The work is hard, the demands are many, the dangers are frequent, and the praise is minimal. Corrections professionals are truly special people.
Most people don't give much thought to the thousands of men and women working inside our facilities and the thousands more that serve in other critical positions within our correctional institutions, as well as our parole and probation offices across the state, because much of that work is outside of the public view. That lack of visibility does not diminish their contributions. Each day, our staff face danger and situations that many people will never face in their lifetime, and they do so with strength, courage, and determination. They face those dangers because it's their job, the role they accepted, and it's the call that they have answered. We live our lives in a safe society because of the efforts of those correctional professionals. To those of you with us today who have answered that call, thank you for your service. The work you do each and every day matters. You know it matters, and that's why you answered the challenge. Unfortunately, many of those working in this profession have had to make the ultimate sacrifice. In the history of our agency, there have been 187 of our brothers and sisters who have made that sacrifice. Many of those lost their lives in the line of duty, and in recent years, many of those lost their lives due to an invisible enemy, COVID-19. Today, as we dedicate this unit, we do so in honor of each of them. This unit will now exhibit a monument wall displaying the names of the fallen you may have seen on your way into the facility. In the future, a new monument wall will also be constructed at the Texas Prison Museum in Huntsville, one that will display the names of all of our staff who have lost their lives in the line of duty, as well as all the names of those who have lost their battle with COVID-19. I encourage you to donate to the building of that memorial wall and hope to see it proudly standing on the wall on the grounds of the Texas Prison Museum in the near future. Today, as we honor those who died, I urge you to remember their acts of unselfishness. Remember their loved ones and their coworkers. Remember their many acts of courage. Remember the dedication and commitment they demonstrated each day. Remember that we will continue our work in their honor. To the families of the men and women that we honor today, please know this: we will never forget the sacrifice that you and your loved ones have made. We will make sure that the names and the memories of your husbands and your wives, your fathers and your mothers, your sons and daughters, your brothers and sisters will live on in the hearts, minds, and souls of citizens for generations to come. That's our commitment to you. We're also committed to upholding our mission of this agency and ensuring that we provide public safety to each of our fellow Texans, and we do this in honor of your loved ones. Thank you for being here today to honor our fallen men and women. May God watch over and protect each and every one of us. May He bless you all, and may He continue to bless the great state of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'd like to invite Correctional Officer Green back to sing "Turning Around for Me" by Frashawn Mitchell.
Sometimes discouraged, but not defeated. Cast down, but not destroyed. I've seen some things I didn't understand but I believe it's turning around for me. I've seen some struggles and disappointments. There were times I felt so alone. Some of my friends, they let me down, but I still believe that it's turning around for me, around for me, around for me, around for me. It's turning around for me, around for me, around for me, around for me. It's turning around for me, because it won't always be like this. He will perfect that concerning me. 'Cause sooner or later, it's gonna work in my favor. Oh, 'cause it's turning around for me. And I can see the breaking of day. God is making a way. Lord, change is coming for me. If I stand strong and believe, there's no reason to doubt. He's already working it out. It's turning around for me. Oh, around for me. Around for me, around for me. It's turning around for me, around for me, around for me, around for me. It's turning around for me. You don't have to worry, you don't have to cry no more. 'Cause sooner or later, it's gonna work in your favor. It's gonna work 'cause it's turning around for me. It's turning around for me. 'Cause it won't always be like this. He will perfect that concerning me. 'Cause sooner or later, it's gonna work in your favor. I know it's turning around for me.
Thank you, Officer Green. Vice Chairman Darylyn Perryman has devoted her career to assisting and advocating for victims of crime. She retired from the Arlington Police Department after serving 21 years. She is the former Victim Advocate Director for the Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney's Office and has served on the board since August of 2015. It is only fitting she reads this year's poem in honor of our fallen. Please welcome Ms. Perryman.
Thank you, Mr. Lumpkin. At the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. When we're weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remembered them. If you would please join me for a moment of silence in remembrance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perryman. The memorial wreath symbolizes the beauty and brevity of life. This year, Ms. Tina Clark, Director of the Information Technology Division, will sadly add a rose to the wreath for Correctional Officer Caitlin Rittenor. Mr. David Yebra, Director of the Training and Leader Development Division, will now present the Missing Officers Table.
Please remain seated while the beverages for the toast are being passed out. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for our missing loved ones. The tablecloth is white, which symbolizes the purity of their motives while answering the call of duty. The sword symbolizes honor. The single red rose reminds us of all the life of each of these missing loved ones and friends of these correctional staff who keep the faith. The vase is tied with the yellow ribbon as a symbol of our continued determination to remember and take care of our own. The slice of lemon reminds us of the bitter fate of those killed or crippled while protecting society. The pinch of salt symbolizes the tears endured by those missing and their families who seek answers. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain those of us that continue on. The glass inverted symbolizes their inability to share this day's toast. The chair is empty, for they are missing. Would you please raise your glass as we toast to those correctional staff who lost their lives while in the line of duty? Although gone, they will never be forgotten.
Thank you, Mr. Yebra. It is with great pleasure that I introduce our next speaker, Chairman Patrick O'Daniel. In April of 2017, he was appointed to the Texas Board of Criminal Justice, and in January 2020, Governor Greg Abbott named him chairman of the board. Chairman O'Daniel expresses his support and guiding the agency through action, visiting units across the state. He becomes acquainted with staff and truly cares and acknowledges their hard work and challenges they face each day. Please welcome Chairman Patrick O'Daniel.
Good morning. Today is a day of mourning and celebration. It is a day of remembrance, but also hope. Today, we have come together for a solemn ceremony to pay tribute to our fallen heroes, the brave men and women who gave their lives to keep safe the citizens of the great state of Texas. This morning, we will honor those no longer with us and dedicate these grounds to their memory. We gather here not just to mourn the loss of our colleagues, but to celebrate their lives and their legacies. These individuals have fallen but are not forgotten. Each is unique, each with their own story. These men and women are more than just a number. They were your co-workers, your family, and your friends. They touched the lives of so many people, and their impact will be felt for years to come. Thank you who have traveled across this great state to be here and indeed have been able to come through the traffic and the storms and the rain this morning. Thank you for being here and being part of this vigil. In many cases, it was a long journey, but you made the journey out of love and respect for those who have given the last full measure of devotion. The word vigil itself derives from the Latin word for wakefulness. It means a period of purposeful sleeplessness. In a way, that is what we are doing today. We refuse to rest. We refuse to forget the men and women we have lost or the work that remains undone. Some of the individuals we will honor today were lost in years past, in some cases long before any of us were born, like Jim Sneed. July 6th, 1931 is a day that forever changed the lives of many of the old Retrieve unit. It was marred by 2 inmates who set in motion events that would eventually lead to the death of Correctional Officer Jim Sneed. While working in the cotton fields earlier in the day, 2 inmates intentionally got into trouble. They were both sent back to the barracks. While the other inmates and guards were asleep, the 2 inmates confronted Officer Sneed and demanded that he turn over the keys so that they could escape into the countryside. The father of 4 sons and 2 daughters stood his ground and refused to comply with their demands. They then overpowered him, took his firearm, and shot him to death. But they were unable to go through with their escape. The gunshots alerted Captain I.K. Kelly, who commanded officers to surround the barracks and ordered the 2 inmates to surrender, which they did. Thank you, Mr. Sneed, for your bravery. 43 years later, the agency was thrust into the national spotlight. On Saturday, August 3rd, 1974, the longest prison siege in American history at that time ended at the Huntsville unit. It culminated with the deaths of 2 inmates and 2 hostages who were employees of the agency. The 11-day escapade ended as it began, with gunfire. 3 inmate conspirators took hostages and held them at gunpoint with pistols that had been smuggled into the prison. After days of conversations, the inmates relayed their intentions to leave using a Trojan horse constructed of blackboards on rollers. The inmates attempted to make their way out of the Huntsville unit with their hostages when a hail of gunfire erupted. When it ended, 2 inmates were dead, as were employees Elizabeth Becerra, a teacher, and Julia Stanley, a librarian. Julia had 5 daughters. Daughters Drew and Pam, 5 children, daughters Drew and Pam, and sons Ty, Mark, and Stuart. We spoke to Pam to find out more about her mother. Pam described her as witty, smart, and tenacious, a Southern belle who set high goals for herself. Julia made sure that she attained them, but there were some detours along the way. While attending Sam Houston State in 1949 as an English major, Julia was named Future Teacher of Texas and was honored at a banquet in Huntsville with Governor Allen Shivers. But she did not complete her degree because she met Troy Stanley. They got married, and he went to work for the FBI. Julia had to put her dreams and goals aside as they moved around the country and raised 5 children in 9 years. One of their stops was in Utah, where Julia won first place at the Utah State Fair in the seamstress competition, beating out a host of Mormon women who had also entered. Pam says her mother loved to read historic novels like Gone with the Wind or Dr. Zhivago or War and Peace. It was not at all uncommon to see her reading one of her favorite books while cooking breakfast. After a short time in Kansas, Julia decided to move back to Texas to fulfill one of her goals at Sam Houston State. She completed her Library of Science degree in May 1974. Then in July, she began working as a librarian at the Huntsville unit. It was just a short time later that the tragic event took place. Pam says her mother was her own person and that nothing seemed to faze her. She always bounced back. When you met her, you realized how talented and well-read she was. She was ahead of her time. Julia Stanley has a namesake today. In 2003, Pam and her husband Bernie adopted a young girl whom they named Julia, and she is just as tenacious and smart as her grandmother. She is currently attending Stephen F. Austin and plans to go to Texas A&M to major in veterinary medicine. Pam says she knows her mother would be so proud of her granddaughter. Thank you, Miss Stanley and Miss Becerra, for your desire to make a difference. 33 years later, another great female staff member would lose her life at the hands of inmates. Correctional Officer Susan Canfield loved horses almost more than anything else, except, of course, for her family. Her only child, Kara Hulob, says Susan could always be found in the barn or outside with her animals. She says her mom was happiest when she was riding through the East Texas forests or competing in cross-country trail events on Too Sweet, her favorite horse. Officer Canfield enjoyed the outdoors and loved to travel with her husband, Chuck. They would often hop aboard their motorcycles and travel all over the United States, or they would entertain their grandchildren, Trent and Jordan, along with their daughter, Kara, and her husband, Alan. It's said that Susan also had a way of looking at nature just a little bit differently than everyone else. She could look at the way a tree would bend in the wind and see it as a piece of art. Kara says that her mother was so excited when she got accepted by TDCJ to be out in the field on horseback. There was not a better role for her within the agency. She loved the team of officers she worked with at the WIN unit and would come home almost daily with a news story about something that had happened. On September 24th, 2007, Officer Canfield was working in the fields on horseback when 2 inmates attempted to escape from an onion field near the WIN unit. They made their way to the nearby City of Huntsville truck depot where they commandeered one of the vehicles. Officer Canfield, from her horse, fired her weapon at the escaping inmates while attempting to stop them. Tragically, Officer Canfield and her horse were struck by the truck as the 2 inmates fled the area. She died from injuries, as did her horse. Kara says that her mother died fulfilling a job that she believed in and where she felt like she made a difference. After her death, Kara found out that her mother had already ordered her Christmas present for the year, a headstall and breast collar for her horse. She found out that the inmate who was making it requested special time to stay up several nights and finish it for Kara. She received it within a week of her mother's death. The inmate told Warden Kelly Strong that Officer Canfield had treated him fairly and had made him feel like someone who could contribute something good to the world. Thank you, Mrs. Canfield, for your selfless sacrifice. Every day, the men and women of TDCJ carry out the mission of protecting the public, whether behind the lines, at one of the units, or out in the field. We honor and respect those sacrifices. On the morning of January 24th, 2015, the agency suffered a terrible tragedy when a transport bus carrying 3 correctional officers and 12 inmates was involved in an accident while traveling from the Middleton unit in Abilene to the Sanchez unit in El Paso. While traveling west on Interstate 20 near Penwell, the vehicle left the icy roadway and was hit by a freight train. 2 officers and 8 inmates died of their injuries. One of those officers was Eligio Garcia Jr. Garcia's sister, Lillian Wheeler, says everyone called him Junior and that he always thought of others first. He was a brother and a friend that you could depend on. He has another sister, Yolanda Peacock, and 2 brothers, Jaime Garcia and Michael Garcia. Officer Garcia was so proud of his 2 daughters, Larson Avery, who is 21, and Ansley Grace Garcia, age 19. He was the son of the late Alejo Garcia Sr. and Belija Garcia. When he was not on the job at TDCJ, Officer Garcia was the color commentary for Lone Star Sports Radio for the Albany Lions high school sports team. He loved watching the Texas Longhorns and the Dallas Cowboys, and who doesn't? Golf was another passion, but he was most famous for being a grill master with his famous chicken poppers for family gatherings. The other officer who tragically lost his life that day was Christopher Davis. Chris, who was given the nickname Crazy by his friends and family, was 53 years old. He was born in San Diego, California, and moved to Abilene in 1974. He graduated from Abilene Cooper High School in 1981. He was a machinist for General Dynamics in Abilene for more than 10 years. In 1997, he went to work for TDCJ as a correctional officer. His widow, Donna Davis, whom he met in 2010, said that Chris was someone you could always count on and that he would always have your back, no matter what situation you found yourself in. He was loyal to his friends, fair to those with whom he worked, and most of all, he was true to himself. Officer Davis enjoyed riding his Harley-Davidson motorcycle in the Texas Hill Country alongside Donna on her motorcycle. He also loved classic cars and had purchased a 1972 Chevrolet El Camino just a few weeks before his death. Playing his electric guitar and listening to classic rock and roll music was also a favorite pastime. Christopher Davis might be described as a Renaissance man, but to those who knew him best, he was just a genuinely good guy. Thank you, Mr. Garcia and Mr. Davis, for your commitment to this agency. In 2020, a faceless killer swept through the world. COVID-19 caused havoc and took the lives of millions. TDCJ, like many other agencies, was deeply impacted. It did not matter if you were a correctional officer, support staff, or inmate. Many were infected. Many lost their lives. Like Chaplain Akbar Shabazz. Chaplain Shabazz was a dedicated employee of the agency who worked diligently to help and encourage others no matter where they were in their life's journey. One of his co-workers said that Chaplain Shabazz's insight was invaluable while his knowledge and experience was unsurpassed. A mentor to many, Chaplain Shabazz was well known for his passion for his ministry. He would travel anywhere in the state to serve the needs of the Islamic community inside TDCJ. He was a man of courage, integrity, and high morals. As another co-worker said, the life he lived spoke for itself. Affectionately known as Lynn by his brothers and sisters, Chaplain Shabazz began his work in the agency over 4 decades ago when he volunteered as one of the very first Muslim chaplains. He joined the agency as an employee in September 1977. He was the regional area Muslim chaplain and coordinated many religious services. Inmates who knew Shabazz said he did not focus on their past, but was concerned about their current character. Despite knowing the risks, this man of faith continued to come to work each day. Sadly, Chaplain Shabazz fell ill on April 3rd, 2020, with symptoms of COVID-19 and was hospitalized. He died 20 days later. His leadership, his knowledge, and his endless willingness to help anywhere he was needed will be deeply missed for many years to come. Chaplain Shabazz, thank you for your courage and commitment to the men and women in white. We have 174 stories like the ones you just heard, and I intend to highlight a few of them at future fallen officer ceremonies. As Mr. Collier mentioned in his keynote address, John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." Let us always remember these words, and in deepest gratitude, let us be secure in the knowledge that our dear friends rest in peace and in a place of honor. It is now time for the dedication portion of the ceremony. The word dedication first appears in the 14th century as a name for the solemn act of dedicating something, such as a calendar day or a church for sacred use. The word, formed from the Latin past participle of dedicare, meaning to dedicate, took hold a few centuries later when English speakers began using it to refer to the act of devoting time and energy to a particular purpose. Today we will be spending our time and energy on another sacred place, the dedication of this facility. On August 27th, 2021, the Texas Board of Criminal Justice voted to rename the Darrington Unit to Memorial Unit. It is a living memorial to those who answered the call but are no longer here. Though tragedy may bring us here today, our unending appreciation for the unsung heroes continues to bind us together. The renaming is not only fitting, but it is also historic. According to our research, there is no other correctional facility named to honor the fallen. In addition, there are a few special items that have been made to mark this special day. First, the families of the fallen, and thank each and every one of you for being here today, will each be receiving a certificate signed by former Texas Board of Criminal Justice Board member and current member of the Texas House of Representatives, Mano de Ayala. Let me tell you a little bit about Mano. Representative Mano de Ayala represents Texas's House District 133 in West Houston. The district includes Houston's Energy Corridor, which is home to the global headquarters of several prominent companies within the energy sector and a critical economic hub for Texas. He is currently serving his first session in the Texas House of Representatives. Mono and his wife of 30 years, Melissa, reside in West Houston with their 3 sons, Marcus, Matthew, and Mitchell. He was on the TBCJ board and voted to approve the renaming of Memorial Unit. And speaking of Memorial Unit, thank you so much, Warden Bridget Hayes and your staff, for doing such an amazing job getting your unit ready for today's ceremony. Thank you, Warden. I also wish at this time to thank Samantha Rolfs with Mr. Lumpkin's office and Brittany Ortega and Jill Durst with the TBCJ board office for their tireless work over the last 2 years to make this dedication ceremony a success. Although I am a bit disappointed they were unable to get the weather to cooperate. I will talk to you about that later. However, on the screen you will see a sign that reads, on May 10th, 2023, Memorial Unit was dedicated to the men and women of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice who made the supreme sacrifice for the citizens they served. We shall not forget. The sign will stand here in perpetuity to remind people long from now why this facility is named Memorial Unit. Finally, as a living monument to those no longer here, there is a memorial wall at the entrance of the facility. It is a beautiful tribute to their selfless sacrifice. You heard some of their stories today. Like you, they came from every corner of this state, from every race and holding every creed. Even though they were diverse, they were similar in many ways. They were united in courage. They were committed to making a difference. They were willing to answer the call. Though they may be gone, they will never be forgotten. Thank you all, and may God bless you, and God bless the great state of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman O'Daniel, for the living memorial and very moving speech. As mentioned during Chairman O'Daniel's remarks, this year the Board of Criminal Justice had flags flown at the Texas State Capitol for each of the fallen employee. And also, as the Chairman mentioned, the families will receive a certificate from State Representative and former board member Mono de Ayala and a flag to commemorate the dedication of this unit in honor of your loved one. The name of your fallen loved one will be called for those in attendance. We ask that the entire family join us at the front of the stage to receive these gifts and take a photo with Chairman O'Daniel, board members, and Executive Director Collier. I'd like to introduce those who will be conducting the roll call. David Sweeten, Director of the Private Facility Contract Monitoring Oversight Division. Ron Hudson, Director of the Facilities Division. Christopher Carter, Director of the Rehabilitation Programs Division. Renee Hinojosa, Director of the Parole Division. April Zamora, Director of the Reentry and Integration Division. And Carrie Green, Director of the Community Justice Assistance Division. This time I ask Chairman O'Daniel, board members, and Executive Director Collier to join us at the front of the stage to meet the families. Connell Foreman, Caitlin Ritnor. Just right there. Then you have your seat. Okay. The family of Jose Ruiz. Please. Don't go back. Go back to your seats. Go back to your seats. Curtis Wallum. The family of Armando Rodriguez. The family of Adrian Harding. The family of Mark Lakin. Kevin Dupree. The family of Thomas Colora. Melissa Maldonado, Cletus Sherman, the family of Chris Watson, the family of Shad Hammond, the family of Julia Stanley, the family of Susan Canfield,
Jose Hernandez. The family of Echo Rodriguez. The family of Cody Whitley Turner. The family of Charles Hughes. The family of Lakeisha Brantley. Joe Olivares, the family of Billy Ball. Jimmy Garcia, the family of Luis Hernandez Sr. Tracy Adams, Troy Marine, Alfredo Jimenez, Treva Preston, the family of Brenda LaFaso, Joe Landon, Philip Holbert, Timothy Beggs, Kenneth Russell, the family of Michael Harper, The family of Gerald Bettison.
Herbert Garcia, Elizabeth Jones, Walterio Rodriguez, Charles Chacon, the family of Eric Johnson, Jackson Ponye, Kenneth Harbin, Gary Bright, James Coleman, Jonathan Goodman, Kelvin Welcher, Amanda DeLeon, the family of Glenn Skeens, Shauna Tedder, the family of Christopher Davis, The family of Rashidat Sabah. The family of Philip Hill. The family of Michael Jensen. The family of George Washington Shiflett. The family of Jackson Ponge. The family of Rashidat Subad.
the family of Gary Wright.
We would like to recognize our fallen colleagues whose families were not able to attend today's ceremony, but are joining us via live stream. The families of Patricia Aguilar, Honorato Antones, Robert Armstrong, Robert Alexander Arrington, Daryl Avery, Charles Bailey, Charles Jesse Baker, Bobby B. Dub Ballard, John Murphy Bennett, Lacey Bennett, Elizabeth Yvonne Beceda, LaBooth Boa, John Broadway, John B. Brown, Kenneth Brown, Shane T. Brunson, Nolan Buchanan, Wilmont Alfred Burnett, Cephas D. Butler, Edward Carter, Teresa Carter, Dalton B. Cothray, Dorothy Kaler, Garland Cheney, Charles E. Claiborne, Coy Kaufman Jr., Ronald Cooper, Stacy Crosby, Rebecca Crow, Major Joseph Croson, Lynn Crump,
Timothy A. Davidson, Barry Deckard, James Deminoff, James Dobb, Jade Drennan, James Elliott, Joe Epperson, Jerry Esparza, Israel Yuan, Johnny Ford, C.B. Foster, Ihalo Garcia Jr., Maria Garcia, Francisco F. Garza, Daniel George E., Jonathan Glover, Jess F. Godwin, John R. Greer, Joe F. Gurney, Olin Hazley, Arthur Haynes Jr., Tashay R. Harper, Reuben Hale, Bill Hempstead, John R. Henson, Richard Holly, Guy Holman, Randy Horn, Rhonda Horton, Minnie R. Houston, Robert A. Hunt, James Joe Jackson, Vicki James, Vershana Jefferson,
Lonnie Johnson, Mary A. Johnson, Sarah Keenum, Joseph Lang, Benjamin Franklin LaRue, D.E. Deb Long, Early A. Lott, Sidney L. Lyons, Mary Martinez, Ruben Martinez, Tammy Martinez, Amy Mashburn, George Allen May, J.R. McCall, Maria Mendez, Frank Miller, Billy M. Moore, Carlos Marino, Daniel James Nagel, Sue Chada Nordell, Tiwu Obeli, Thomas Ogunbuyer, DeWitt Frisbee Oliver, Craig A. Orrell, Rhonda Osborne, Wallace M. Pack, Donald Parker, Timothy Parsley Sr., H.D. Parsons, Kelly Pena, Whitney Poindexter, George Pratt Jr., George Tyrus Preston, James Price.
Jason A. Prosser, Huey Primus III, Lorraine M. Quinn, William M. Ratter, Sandra Rivera, Clemente Rocha, Roderick Rogers, Frank Rose, Akbar Shabazz, Barbara Leggett Shumate, Randall Sims, Felix Smith, Harold Smith Sr., Jim B. Sneed, Tommy Melly Starnes, Stephen F. Stewart, Sidney Albert Sims, George W. Taylor, John Teal,
Ronnie Tucker. Alfredo Urbina, Jr. Walter Isaac Van Dorn. Henry Ward. Virgil Welch. James Weston, Jr. John Weir. Stanley A. Wiley. Joseph F. Joe Wilkerson. John T. Wilhite. Benjamin Riley Williamson. John L. Wiley. Kay Ziegler. And Godfrey Zuzi.
Ms. Mauricia Jackson is the Correctional Institutions Division's Region 3 Director with oversight of 18 units, including the Memorial Unit. I invite Director Jackson to update you regarding the in-memory balloon release.
Good afternoon. We have gathered here today to celebrate your loved ones, and it is an honor to dedicate this facility to our correctional officers. Unforeseen weather has altered this portion of the ceremony, but it would not impact our celebration of life. As you depart from today's ceremony, you will receive a balloon. It is a symbol of their spirit and your loving thoughts you want to share with those who could not be with us today. As you release these balloons, as you exit, may it bring you peace, comfort, and hope. Thank you.
Mr. Billy Hurst, Director of the Manufacturing, Agribusiness, and Logistics Division, will now present the riderless horse.
At this time, I'd like to direct your attention to the monitors as Sergeant Eric Johnson escorts the riderless horse. The custom of leading the riderless horse is a symbolic tribute for those fallen officers who will no longer be called upon. The riderless horse is always black, wearing a black blanket as well as saddle and bridle. A pair of black boots are reversed in the stirrups. The timeless custom symbolizes reversing the order of things that is caused by the loss of life, allowing the rider to look back at the living one last time before riding into the beyond.
At this time, I introduce Deputy Executive Director Oscar Mendoza, who will conduct the roll call. Mr. Marvin Dunbar, Director of Administrative Review and Risk Management Division, will lead the bell toll.
As many of you know, a significant part of our service is in the reading of the memorial roll. This year, with a heavy heart, we add names to that roll. These individuals were corrections professionals from across our nation. What we do today, we do in their honor, yet we know that remembering means more than just calling the roll of the fallen. It means honoring the unfinished work of the men and women who gave their lives in the line of duty. Caitlin Ritnor, Correctional Officer, Lopez State Jail, end of watch, September 3rd, 2022. Helen Smith, Correctional Officer, Pasquotank Correctional Institution, North Carolina, end of watch, February 3rd, 2022. Joshua Caudell, Sergeant, Arkansas Department of Corrections, end of watch, February 28th, 2022. Jeremiah Story, Detention Officer, Perry County Sheriff's Office, Arkansas, end of watch, June 22nd, 2022. Gregory Horn Sr., Detention Corporal, Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office, North Carolina, end of watch, September 25th, 2022. Scott Reiner, Senior Correctional Officer, Gwinnett County Department of Corrections, Georgia, end of watch, December 13th, 2022. Daniel Kinn, Deputy Sheriff, Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office, Ohio, end of watch, December 15th, 2022. In memoriam of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Mark Lakin, Correctional Officer, Huntsville Unit, end of watch, January 10th, 2022. Adrian Harding Jr., Equipment Operator, Wynn Unit, end of watch, January 10th, 2022. Armando Rodriguez, Clerk, Fort Stockton Unit, end of watch, January 16th, 2022. Carlos Moreno, Correctional Officer, Hughes Unit, end of watch, January 22nd, 2022. Alfredo Urbina, Correctional Officer, Ney Unit, end of watch, January 24th, 2022. Patricia Aguilar, Director, Alpha Recovery Center, end of watch, January 26th, 2022. Tammy Martinez, Registered Nurse, University of Texas Medical Branch, end of watch, January 27th, 2022. Jonathan Glover, Correctional Officer, Torres Unit, end of watch, February 6th, 2022. Daryl Avery, Food Service Manager, Hutchins State Jail, end of watch, February 6th, 2022. John Broadway, Correctional Officer, Jordan Unit, end of watch, February 8th, 2022. Kay Ziegler, Jr., Correctional Officer, Dalhart Unit, end of watch, February 13th, 2022. Curtis Wallum, Administrative Assistant, Private Facilities Division, end of watch, February 18th, 2022. Jose Ruiz, Correctional Officer, Hutchins State Jail, end of watch, March 1st, 2022. Lonnie Johnson, Correctional Officer, Cofield Unit, end of watch, March 6th, 2022. James Price, Correctional Officer, Polunsky Unit, end of watch, April 22nd, 2022. Jay Drennan, Correctional Officer, Jordan Unit, end of watch, May 19th, 2022. If able, please rise. We direct your attention to our monitors for our 21-gun salute and the playing of taps.
Detail! Attend! Hut! Port! Arms! Right! Face! Half left! Face! Ready! Aim! Fire! Ready! Aim! Fire! Ready! Aim! Fire! Half left! Face! Present! Arms! Order! Arms! Ceremonial parade! Rest!
This time, please remain seated, remain standing for the retirement of the colors. Permission granted. At this time, I invite Pastor Miles back to the podium to lead us in the benediction.
As we close today, I want to pray a blessing over every family here that mourns the death of a loved one. Receive the blessing of the Lord. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face upon you and give you peace. Amen.
As we conclude this year's ceremony, I do want to make one correction, inadvertently typo. Officer Rittenor was from the from the Briscoe unit and not the Lopez unit. So just want to make that one correction. This does conclude the 2023 memorial service, memorial unit dedication, and the fallen officer ceremony. It's certainly been an honor for all of us to be with you today, to be part of this ceremony. We appreciate those who are watching or will be watching through the taped live stream that will be on YouTube later. Of course, those in attendance, you want to rewatch, you may. It will live in remembrance on YouTube. There are plastic bags at the back of the room for the items that you were presented. In the case of weather still inclement, that you can get out to your vehicles without becoming wet. We do wish you a safe travel home. We do have refreshments across in the gymnasium. Feel free to come over and spend some time with us if your calendar or time allows. And in the end, just God bless all our correctional professionals who keep us safe each day, and God bless Texas. Thank you.